everyone. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Fully Book Chats. This afternoon, we will chat with the author of The Age of Umbridge and the collected stories of Jessica Zafra. My pleasure to introduce. Jessica Zafra has written two collections of stories as well as dozens of collection of essays on film, literature, travel, rock music, popular culture, and current affairs. She has received Palanca Awards for her short stories and the National Book Award for her collection of essays. Her essays have also appeared in the New Yorker and Newsweek. She was editor-in-chief of Flip, the official guide to world domination, and Manila Envelope. She conducts writing workshops, hosts a monthly book club, and does a podcast called Podcats. So let's all welcome Miss Jessica Zafra.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Hi, Miss Jessica. So thank you very much for your time, and we are glad, of course, to have you again. Not in the most ideal situation, but okay na rin. So how are you and your cats right now po?
Well, my cats are very pleased because I hardly ever leave the house. So whenever I leave the house, they want to know why. Otherwise, as things go, I always remind myself how lucky we are to be, comfortable at home, with our essentials met. So I
Yes,
can't complain, really.
that's true. And of course, it's good to hear that you're doing good and the cats are happy. So you just launched your new novel last October. Uh,
Yes.
but before we dive deep into discussion about your new novel, I believe you'll be reading us an excerpt of your book.
Yes.
So,
Okay. So this is the beginning of chapter 4. It's a very short novel, really. So as in, you could sit down and read it in a few hours. But anyway, this is when my protagonist is in high school. Okay. So the National Science Laboratory High School was established at the height of the Cold War when the Americans and the Soviets were racing to put a man on the moon. Ever the faithful ally of the United States, the Philippine government decided that it would seek out its most promising minds and train them to become the scientists of the future. A campus was built within a national park surrounded by ancient trees, aviaries, and a lagoon that bred disease-carrying mosquitoes. A laboratory in a jungle setting, Guada remarked, not unlike the island of Dr. Moreau. In its 3 decades, the school had indeed produced many aspiring scientists, rigorously trained and eager to crack the mysteries of the universe. A quarter of them were accepted as science majors at foreign universities, where they embarked on highly specialized research projects and amassed skills that rendered them unemployable in the Philippines. Half of them became doctors and engineers, and of this number, half emigrated to developed countries. Emigration has always been the option for the ambitious Filipino bourgeoisie. If you performed well at school and your parents were not members of the feudal land-owning cacique class, you went abroad to make your fortune. Thence you could periodically visit the homeland in triumph, express your consternation at the backwardness of the Philippines, extol the order and progress of your adopted country, do charity work to give back to the place you had escaped, and congratulate yourself for having left. This was Shawnee's plan for Guada, who had all the qualifications for success abroad except for the desire to go there. Shawnee feared her daughter had grown too comfortable in the Almagro household and even considered herself a member of the family. She talked like them, laughed at the same things, and assumed she would have the same advantages they had. It pained Shawnee to know that her daughter was embarrassed by her, the way she dressed, enunciated her words too emphatically, and generally called attention to herself. Pushy was how Guada had described her in her diary, which was locked up in a drawer of her desk. She did not know that her mother had a spare key and regularly perused her secrets until the day Shawnee confronted her about her use of the adverb fucking. Where did you learn to use that word? Shawnee demanded. Is that how I raised you? You read my diary? Guada screeched. How could you? I'm your mother. As long as you're living with me, you obey my rules. You think I can forget that? Guada shouted. Well, what was Shawnee supposed to do? She was not an Almagro who would be noticed and fawned over no matter how they looked. She had to fight for respect. She was a single mother raising a child, and she would ensure that her child had a better life than her own. Not this borrowed existence in a house that did not belong to her, with a family not her own. Not this artificial sense of security at another person's behest. Shawnee would put up with living in the servants' quarters for now, but she had plans. Should I continue? Or is that okay?
That's okay. Thank you,
Okay.
Miss
Thank you
Jessica,
very much.
and congratulations on your new book. And of course, first, that would like to know what made you write the Age of Umbridge?
Uh, when?
What made you write?
What made I write? What made me write it? Because even in grade school, I always knew that I was going to be a writer, and the writer I imagined was a novelist. But after I left school, since I would not consider other types of jobs, I always wanted to write. I only wanted to write. So I couldn't make a living writing fiction. So I started writing feature articles and then a column. And so for many years, I wrote basically essays for publications. And I kept trying to write a novel, but it turned out that I could not do both at the same time. There are people who can, they can divide their mindset into two. Half can be doing, nonfiction, half can be doing fiction. But it turns out I realized after many years of trying and failing that I had to stop writing columns in order to write a novel. So I always tell people this novel took me 3 months to write, give or take 30 years, because it took me 30 years to figure out how to write a novel.
Oh, and thank you for sharing Guadalupe's story. It's very moving. Um, since
Thank you.
you've mentioned that yeah, and everyone knows here that you used to write for columns. How was your creative process different in writing this one from writing columns and short stories?
Well, for one, the difference that I realized was that when I wrote a column, I developed the habit of automatically stopping at 1,000 words. So I learned to write, in a rush and then end. It's automatically, I have this counter in my brain that says 1,000 columns, you can stop working now. But obviously, a novel takes more than 1,000 words. And even if I have trained myself to write every day, sometimes you sit down and you just don't have it. You can write something, but it's not working. And the only way for me to make it work is to keep at it until I build up enough momentum. And then eventually, it sounds the way I want it to sound. The way it sounds in my head is the way it already sounds on paper. So it takes momentum there. Except that when I was trying to write a novel while writing a column, my deadlines would come 3 times a week. So having built up this momentum for the novel, I would have to stop and write a novel. And so after writing a novel, I have to again, build up the momentum. So it's really a matter of stamina. The obvious comparison there would be that a column is a sprint and a novel is a marathon.
I'm
I have to
actually
train for it.
curious. Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually curious which came first when you started to write it. Like, did you decide on the characters first, the plot, the setting, the message you want to convey?
Well, I already had a character in mind because she's very much like me. That's the way I was, in high school, and the character of Guadalupe, she wasn't even called Guadalupe then. She has gone through many names. Um, I always knew that it was going to be a coming of age story because it's sort of a tribute because I taught myself how to write fiction by copying J.D. Salinger, whom I read in high school. When I was a miserable teenager, I read The Catcher in the Rye, which is the Bible of miserable teenagers everywhere. And so I learned to write short stories by imitating the voice of Holden Caulfield. And eventually, I began to sound more and more like myself and less like a 15-year-old prep school dropout from Park Avenue. So I always knew it would be a coming of age story. And many novelists will tell you that first novels are almost always, thinly veiled autobiographies.
Mm-hmm.
The impressive German word for it is Bildungsroman. Anyway, so I always knew it was going to be coming of age. But so I had the character, and the character was very clear in my head. It's a bit of cheating because she's very much like me. But then, I late my early attempts didn't really work because I only had a character, and I figured, she was enough, to describe what her life was like, what she was thinking like. But then, um, when I finally sat down to write the novel, I thought, why is she living in a vacuum, as if she was not interacting with other people, as if she's living in this amorphous country na you couldn't even tell what country it was. So I decided to situate it more specifically in the Philippines, and particularly Philippine society. And that's when it really popped for me, because Philippine society is so interesting and complicated. And when I brought in issues of class, and and social inequality, and the way people talk, and the way people of a certain economic group value these things, and people from the other economic groups value others, then it really came to life. So it's still the story of Guada, the protagonist, but she's more firmly situated in the Philippines in the 80s and 90s. The 80s and 90s, because it was a fun time, and at the same time, it was a little less complicated because the internet didn't exist yet as we know it today. It was just like, this military survival thing. But, people still interacted face to face.
Yeah.
As in, if I were to continue this story, then cell phones would come in, and social media, and it gets somehow less personal.
Right. Okay, so since we're talking about the creative process, may we know which part of the novel you enjoyed most writing and why?
Oh, it's a short novel, so I don't really remember the different segments. But I think the first part, I think I did write it in order. I wrote it in chronological order, and so from the beginning where my protagonist's parents meet up to the part where she is exorcised as a baby. After
Yes.
that part, I thought, hey, I can continue this. So I like the exorcism part, because that's when I realized that, oh, I can keep on going. I have built enough, momentum and a background so that this can be developed into a novel.
Actually, I was just gonna say that it's one of my favorite parts of the novel. The
It's sort of true,
Oh, really?
the exorcism part, because was this I'll tell the story, because when I was a very clumsy baby,
Mm-hmm.
as in it took me, I was almost a year old when I could walk, and even at say 6 months I had to be surrounded by pillows, because I would fall flat on my face. I had no balance. In fact, I still have no balance. But anyway,
Oh no.
um, I was physically slow to develop, but I could start speaking at a very early age. And my mom always told me that I didn't go through the baby talk stage. I just went straight to complete sentences. And because I was surrounded by adults who like to curse, I picked up a lot of curse words in Bicolano, because my parents are both from Bicol.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Okay.
I was very, at a, even before I was 1 year old, I was quite fluent in English and Bicolano. Strangely, Bicolano I've mostly forgotten. But then, so I was speaking English and Bicolano, and then, I would talk to people, and it would freak them out, because it's like, why is this big head baby speaking to me? And so my mom says, of course, my mom could have exaggerated. There was one time when we were visiting um, their hometown in the province. I was left in the care of some old aunts, and
Mm.
I freaked them out by basically talking to them as if they were people my age. And so they figured I was under the influence of some evil being. So they dripped candle wax on the soles of my feet. So
Oh
now
my
that I think
God.
about it, it's child abuse. So but my mom arrived just as I was screaming, as the candle wax began to be applied. So that was the end of that.
Oh my God, I'm so happy you shared the story because when I was reading it, iniisip ko, totoo kaya to na bata pa lang,
No,
got,
actually, it's quite common, huh? I don't know if, well, because I'm older, if people your age are still exposed to, old ladies who believe in things like, ay, na maligno, na kulam, whatever.
yeah.
And so, and the thing that made them decide that I was na maligno was because I was speaking fluently in English.
Yeah,
So,
ang galing. Okay. Okay, so that was fun. Um, okay, so how about the hardest part to write in the story and why?
um, well, I didn't know how to end it.
Mm,
So I think I do give writing workshops, and I tell everyone when you sit down to write a piece of fiction, you better know how it ends, or else you'll be wandering in the wilderness, unaware of how to end it. And it took me a while to figure out the ending. But and then how I thought of the ending was that in the early 2000s, back when Quiapo was like the unofficial cinematheque of the Philippines because there were DVD vendors there. I used to go there with my friends almost every weekend, and that's how I got to know Quiapo. While looking for DVDs of Tarkovsky, etc. And it's such a colorful and in many ways a very weird place. And then when I was working up towards the ending, I realized, oh, I should set it in a place that I would really enjoy describing. So I thought, Quiapo, that's where it's going to end. Yeah. So once I thought Quiapo, that fixed it.
oh, okay. I'm not. I don't want to comment about the ending, so it won't spoil anyone here. But yeah, there are lots of characters in the story which Guada had brief moments or encounters with. So, for instance, when Shawnee and Guada got off the bus while there was a rally going on in the streets, a woman told her, "You're never too young to care about your country." And on the same chapter, while she got lost at the wet market and was looking for Shawnee, a bald man replied to him when asked about Shawnee, beat if um, beat if before I put you in the cauldron." Then there were encounters with Gabrielle, Guillermo, her principal, the maids in Don Paquito's home, with Don Paquito's youngest child, Emilia, where she learned about leverage, and when they attended the same school. So most of it appears to be a reflection of our culture and our society. And I think you've mentioned this a while ago when you were talking about the creative process. What do you hope readers pick up from it?
Well, I'd like, well, first, of course, I'd like them to think about the different the sheer number of people that they interact with every day whom they don't necessarily know, as in the grab driver, the security guard, the cashier. Everyone has a story, everyone has a life of their own and a story. And we never ever stop to think, what kind of lives do they have. I think one of the functions of fiction is to to train us in empathy, so that we realize that while we may be the stars of our stories, in their own stories they are the protagonists, and they have their own lives, their own
Right.
aspirations, their own disappointments and fears. And if we just try to understand people, you know um we put themselves in their mindsets, we would get along so much better.
Right. Actually,
when you read it, when I've read it, it's kind of a reminder for me to step back and, see the bigger picture in every scenario in my life. So anyway, so how did you decide on picking the characters and scenes for this brief encounters?
Oh, I think that I am influenced as much by movies as books. So when I imagine my book, I see Guada literally interacting with other people, as in a movie where she's walking, and it's like a Sims game where she's walking. Who does she meet? What do they talk about? So imagining it unfolding like a movie made it so much easier to write
Right,
instead of making an outline with a cast, etc.,
right.
etc. Somehow making them walk and talk made it easier for me to write.
I must say I really love these encounters because really life is just a series of random moments with people, um,
Exactly.
stories and art you consume, which makes up your character. And so, with all of those encounters and incredible books and movie references in the story, people Guada met in life, I'm curious about the kind of life Guada has now in the present. So we'll be reading more of Guada.
Oh, there.
I'm really
Yeah,
curious.
I get that. I get that a lot. As in, for everyone says, it's too short, and
Yes.
then the next question is there going to be a sequel? Well, I think I probably will revisit her story in the future. When I've decided on what sort of life she has, does she become a filmmaker? Does she become a writer, etc., etc. But I also like leaving it to your imagination. Maybe I should do a survey. Like, what do you think will happen to her next? And because those theories of time where there are as many parallel universe versions of you as
Right.
all the decisions that you make. It keeps splitting out and branching off. So I don't know yet what kind of life she will have, but of course, since I am personally invested in her, since so much of me is in her, I would like her to be happy.
Yeah, I super agree with that it's super bitin. But parang you'll think of God and saan na kaya siya? Parang gano'n. So,
Yeah.
um, during the excerpt that you read, so it's actually from the part where we get a more intimate glimpse of how Guada feels and thinks through her diary. Because I think after that scene, the mother, you showed us the diary of Guadalupe, right?
Yes.
What made you include this in the novel?
Oh, it is because after I had written the first draft and I wrote it fast, I realized, short as it is now, it was really short. And then I was thinking of various ways to make it longer. And, Guada's diary was one of those ways. And I had some other sections that I filled out and made longer. But then I decided to stop at some point because then um, the additions really did sound like late breaking filler in
Right.
order to increase the word count. So I said, I think this is okay now.
Actually, I love that diary part because only because I feel bitten nga by Guada's story, and it's actually exciting and kind of felt for me as a reader as a teaser of how she sees life or processes everything that's happening around her. And so in case you'll be doing a sequel, and I hope you are, will we be seeing more of the world through her eyes?
Um, I don't know, but it's interesting that you singled out the diary because initially the novel was all going to be first person from Guada's point of view. That's why
Oh,
it was easy to write that diary part because it's all in her words. Except that I got stuck in the middle because with first person you can only know what the character knows, obviously. Or, and if you're being ironic, you can point out stuff that the character sees but does not understand. And I realized it was so much easier when talking about Philippine society, Philippine class warfare, to make it third person. So you'd have an omniscient narrator, almost like, Edith Wharton in The Age of Innocence, which is one of my favorite novels, and I kind of based the title is kind of homage to that. So
I actually thought that like this book would be like a build up of Guada's character, and then the next book, that's just how I imagined. In the next book, we'll get to know more of her, of how she sees life. Okay, so I'm really excited for the sequel of Age of Umbridge. Do you have more?
Yeah, when I write it, because the first novel I'm already plotting, I think I will veer away from the 80s and 90s and do something completely different.
Oh, that sounds exciting, equally. So I guess that's what's next for you. So you're writing a novel right now. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh! And when will this come out? Are you still in the
Well,
process of writing?
it's going quite fast because luck. What?
Are you still
Sorry,
in the
I didn't hear that.
are you still in the process of writing it?
Yes. I'm still writing it. I've but it's going well, and was this I find that lockdown has been fairly productive for me because I'm stuck in the house. I used to go out every day. I used to go to Fully Book practically every day, the one in Rockwell, which is within walking distance. And so I miss my walks, which is the only form of exercise I get. So I find that by sitting down and writing, at least my mind escapes, even if, physically I'm stuck in my house, but when I'm writing, my mind is wandering elsewhere.
That's true, and that's so exciting to know that you have another novel. So, Miss Jessica,
Yes, and yeah, I appreciate that, you're talking to me for Fully Book Talks, because I just realized when I was, looking at my book earlier, that it's really a book about books, about a kid who loves books,
right?
and, and learns about life from books, and eventually realizes she will have to augment this with, with real world stuff.
Right.
So.
That's true, and
And all the books that are mentioned in my novel are on the shelves at Fully Booked.
thank you
So,
very much. So maybe we'll share it to the readers, to the viewers. Okay, so Miss Jessica, any advice for aspiring writers?
oh, first, read a lot, as in read everything you can get your hands on. And also, I know a lot of people would like to get into reading, but they don't know how to choose a book. And I always say, open the book. No, first you look at the back, you read the summary, and then read the first page. And if it grabs you, then you should go for it. And if you like the book, then it would be useful to go back to the other books that author has written. For instance, when I started reading Ali Smith with when How to Be Both came out, and I love it. And because of that book, I started reading the books that she had written before. And then, after I had caught up, then I read the books that came after How to Be Both. So reading is never a waste of time. As in, we tend to think of reading as, for storing information. No. Reading has cognitive benefits. It literally makes your brain more efficient. And so if you want to write, you read a lot. And then as for the writing part, it's very simple. Just write every single day. As in, set aside a little time, take 1 hour off from Instagram and Twitter and just write in a notebook every single day. Um, start with a small quota, say 200 words a day, even just your journal, describe what sort of day you had. And then, just work up to say 1,000 words a day, which is well, that's what I read in a quote by Graham Greene, whom I've always loved. But I should think 500 words a day will be fine. And then, train yourself so that every single day you write about it. And don't worry that what you're writing is not very good, because we always make the mistake of thinking that everything we write will be judged and published. No, not everything you write has to be published. Are you kidding? As in, 9/10 of what I've written has never been published, and I have a lot of books. So the point is to enjoy the process of writing and to figure out what your voice is like, because it's only by writing a lot that we can figure out what a real voice is.
Thank you for that valuable advice. I hope
Thank you, but I hope it's valuable.
I'm sure you inspire a lot of young writers here in the Philippines. Okay, so that ends the first part of our interview. So now we'll do our bookish fast talk. So these are just should be easy questions answerable by maybe 1 to 2 sentences. Okay, so for the first part,
Okay.
we're just gonna do this or that. So you're just gonna choose between the two. Okay, so first, paperback or hardcover?
Hardcover.
Oh, why? Sorry.
I like hardcover.
Okay.
I like the weight of the book. I like the weight of the book. And although with hardcover, I always have issues with the dust jacket. As in, the dust jacket doesn't really serve a function for me, because when I'm reading it, I take off the dust jacket.
Get.
But then, the hardcover.
Okay. Next, bookmark or dog ear?
Bookmark. As in, um, if I lend out my books and people dog ear.
Okay. Write all day or read all day?
Oh, read probably.
Oh,
Because I've never managed to write all day. As in, say, 4 to 6 hours is my record. After that, I could read.
okay.
Yeah. So is our signal working? Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sorry. I actually thought you're gonna say write all day and read all night or something like that.
Ah, no. I can read all day. Write all day. It's too intense. It has to be in fairly long but controlled bursts.
That's true. I understand. So, read one book at a time or multiple books at the same time?
Oh, I read so many books at the same time,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I can't resist.
Okay, so happy endings or sad endings?
Do you realize that the love stories that you really remember are the ones where hindi sila nagkatuluyan? As in,
The
the most
heartbreaking one.
romantic stories are the tragic ones.
That's true.
Yes, the ones where they die, they never get together, etc. But for sad endings or happy endings, I think if it's an ending that suits the character and it gives you a clear idea what their lives will be like after that. Yeah. In my novel, you might remember the part where she says, it bothers her yung the line, and they lived happily ever after. Because what does that mean? What
Yeah,
happens after that? How can we be sure that they're
that's
happy?
true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay, so do you listen to music when writing? Yes or no?
Yes, I do.
Oh, so do you have a playlist? For
Well, for since if I'm writing something that's set in the 80s and 90s, then it helps to have a playlist from the 80s and the 90s and so on. Like now, I'm trying to write something that's set in the 19th century, so I have a 19th century playlist. And these things are so easy to do now because there are all these apps and all these websites. When I was growing up, you would have to go and line up all your cassettes, etc., etc.
that's true. I'm actually surprised because most of the time the writers we interview, um, sometimes they see music when writing as distraction. So kanya-kanya rin talaga.
Oh, it differs for writers. We all have our own process that works for us. For instance, when I was writing a column, it always helped me to write in a noisy place. As
Mm,
in, if I had a deadline coming up, I would go to a noisy coffee shop and write there. Because when you're writing in a noisy place, you have to shut out all the noise, and it forces you to concentrate. And I
right.
always write longhand. So
Oh,
so apart from books, I go to your bookstore for notebooks.
yay, thanks for that. Okay. Okay, so for the next set of questions, we're going to ask for your top three choices. Okay. So first, top three reads during the quarantine period.
I have read lately the U.S. election, American culture, and the issues race, ethnicity, and migration. Because every year I put out the first list. 10 my list were white people, and I thought there are no persons of color in this list. So in recent years, I've been trying to address that by reading more books by people of color. So this year, I've read three that I would recommend would be A Burning by Megha Majumdar, which is set in India, and then The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, which is excellent. And then a nonfiction book called Cased by Isabel Wilkerson, which is about which explains why 70 million people still voted for Trump, knowing everything that they know about him. They still voted, and the roots of this kind of thinking, and how America is, and what its history has led to.
Thank you for the recommended reads during quarantine period. Top three favorite
Oh,
authors.
and also I love David Mitchell, and Utopia Avenue is out. So
Oh,
I have to add that. Yeah.
I think you
Yes.
just
Yeah.
had your book club discussion last week.
Yes, we had a book
Yeah.
club discussion, but not many people showed up because we've been continuing the book club. But a lot of people, and it's understandable because these are anxious times. A lot of people cannot concentrate during this long quarantine, so it's difficult to get into a book. But I told them, if you would just hang in there,
Mhm.
Utopia Avenue is such a fun read.
Yeah, it's actually on my to-be-read books. Okay, so top three favorite authors.
Oh, um, there I have too many authors to name, but okay, let's go back to the authors that I name check in the Age of Umbridge, because these are sort of my greatest hits. I've always loved Dune by George Herbert, Frank Herbert. I was really looking forward to the movie version, which is supposed to come out this year, but
Yeah.
it's been moved to next year. I even like the David Lynch version from the mid '80s, which is weird, but which I enjoyed very much. And well, yeah, I'll name J.D. Salinger's Nine Stories, which is, one of the books that taught me how to write. And then, well, um, it, since the title of my novel is kind of a homage to her, Edith Wharton's The Age of Innocence.
Okay, so top three things to do when experiencing writer's block.
Oh, I'm lucky in that since I was writing a column for a living, I really could not have writer's block because it would mean that I won't get paid. And if I don't get paid, how will I buy cat food? And so if I can't buy cat food, my cats will eat me, diba? So, so when usually, my version of the block is that, I just have no appetite for writing on that day.
Mhm.
And then, sometimes, if a deadline is looming, and I can't think of anything to write, what I do is first I take a nap. My mutant power is the power to fall asleep. I can fall asleep anywhere. And
Wow.
I think most people walk around lacking sleep, take 9 hours of sleep a day, and a 20-minute power nap, it'll fix you. You'll have less anxiety that way. So whenever I was stuck on something to write, I would take a nap, and then when I woke up, whoa, my brain is refreshed. I would yeah, I would have the solution. Oh, and here's an additional tip. I drink coffee, and it takes 20 minutes for the caffeine to take effect. And 20 minutes is also the ideal duration for a nap. So what you do is you drink a cup of coffee, and then you take a nap. And then so when you wake up 20 minutes later, tama-tama,
Okay.
you're refreshed and the caffeine hits. So
Okay.
you're more
Right.
you're more your brain is energized. Okay. Another thing I do when I can't think of anything to write is I go watch a movie. That's one of the things that makes me sad about lockdown. No cinemas. There's nothing like sitting in a dark theater, watching the movie with a bunch of total strangers, even if, you want to throw your shoe at them because they're talking loudly on their phone, or they're tweeting in the middle of the movie, or they're answering all their calls. There's really nothing like the cinema. So I find that after I watch a movie, I get, all sorts of ideas because while I'm watching the movie, I'm having a conversation with my built-in movie reviewer in my head. Like, what happened there? What else might have happened? What would I have done in that situation, etc., etc. And then so take a nap, go to a movie, or do something creative but repetitive. Like during lockdown, I've been making zines. I find that a repetitive creative thing like folding and binding zines really clears my mind of worry and boredom and so on. So something repetitive, maybe you could sketch, or well, organize your music file, something like that.
Right. Thank you for those advice. And actually, I think I've read somewhere that when you organize your room or organize your stuff, in some way you get to organize your mind, so you'll be able to do a lot more productive things. Okay.
Seriously, I've never cleaned house as often as I do now. I keep cleaning the house,
I think it helps to keep us safe.
which strangely still doesn't get clean because I have 3 cats. So there is an endless supply of cat fur and dust.
Oh my God. Okay, so last, top three books you always recommend.
um, Books I always recommend. Okay, let's go with Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. Um, it's David Mitchell is an acclaimed literary writer, but I think he's really secretly a science fiction author, and I've always loved science fiction. So, and then as I mentioned earlier, Dune, because it's really about the environment and how people try to adjust to this desert planet they've been put on and try to make it livable by terraforming, etc., etc. And then another book I would recommend. Wait, I'm just looking at the shelf. Hmm.
Go for it.
Wow, I have a lot of books. I'm
Hira.
sorry, I can't choose all of you. Okay, I can't choose all of you. So let's go with Kate Atkinson. Kate Atkinson is a British writer who who writes these wonderful novels, but she has a series of detective novels starring a character called Jackson Brody, and those are so much fun, and yeah, that's the advice I give people who say that they have difficulty reading during the pandemic. What you do is you read series of detective novels, because detective novels, they make it they they make you think that the world is orderly, that using your intelligence, and that if you're honest and you have integrity, then you can solve problems. So it makes us think that the world is essentially orderly, even when it's not. So detective novels, and there are so many great detective series. I keep reading glowing reviews of Tana French, who is on my to read list. I've never read her, but there are. You can just pick a city, and then pick the detective series associated with that city. Like I love Venice in Italy, and there's this author named Donna Leon who writes a series of detective novels set in Venice. And then, if you like London, then, who else but Sherlock Holmes? So detective novels are great for restarting the reading habit if you've been stuck during the pandemic.
We'll take note of that. Actually, I remembered that you also said during your talk with us last January ba yun, or February, the reading for sanity, that if you experience reading slump, if you're in a reading slump, you should read also thriller books.
Yes, yes. Crime thrillers, detective novels, yes.
Yeah,
Very good for, very good for getting yourself out of that rut.
right. Okay, so and down to our last set of questions. I'm so sorry for asking you a lot of questions. So
No,
first,
no, no, no problem. Anytime anyone wants. Oh, um, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell your audience, if you have a book club and you decide to discuss my book, let me know. I will join the discussion.
oh my God.
Yeah, as in just last week, I joined a book club discussion. It was fun, even if it became a chismisan thing.
Medyo may ganong part talaga kapag book club discussion din.
Yes.
Okay, so first question. If you will be stuck in a year or period in your life, what year would it be and why?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
If you will be stuck in a year or period in your life, what year would it be and why?
Hmm. What would be? Well, I'd like to go back to the pre-internet 90s,
Oh, yeah.
because I think that the pre-internet 90s, say 1999, that was the last time I really understood the world. Since then, because of the internet, because it's just gotten so much more complicated. So I'll say 1999,
Aw,
which was generally a good year for me.
right. Nakakamiss ang
And it
90s.
has its own soundtrack because Prince has a song called 1999. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so next. How many times have you read your novel? The Age of Umbridge.
Oh, um, when I was writing it, too many times to count, but and I apologize if you find any typos in the text. This is because when the novel was finally laid out and my publisher sent it to me, I said, "Please, I've read it so many times, I can't see it anymore." Has that ever happened to you where you've read something so many times that you're not even seeing the text itself? Your brain is filling in the blanks, so you miss all the typos, etc. But this book, in the process of writing it, let's put it at 10 times. 10 times I've read this, which is,
Okay.
I feel maybe 8 times too many.
Okay, so and any trivia about the novel you want to share?
um well, apart from the fact that the protagonist is loosely based, is mostly me. um well, the characters are composites based on people I know. A lot of my friends are there. For instance, the character of Guillermo, the youngest Almagro son, he's based
Yeah.
on one of my close friends, Guillermo Ramos. And
Mm.
the reason he's the basis for that is because in the 90s, we used to sit around and worry about money all the time, as in, because we're both freelancers, we used to worry about money. So when I sat down to write a novel, I said, "Oh, I'll have a character based on my friend Guillermo, and I'll give him all the money he wants." It's a kind of wish fulfillment. Ayan, I'll arrange it so he doesn't have to worry about money. So there he is. So bits of my friend are present all over the book. For instance, Don Paquito is based on the father of another close friend of mine, Tina Cuyugan. He was such a character, as in, um, he went to LaSalle in the 1930s. His family lived in Baclaran, and according to Tina, every day he would swim to school from Baclaran to Taft. And when he got to Taft, the houseboy would be there waiting with a towel and a change of clothes. What a character! So, if you're going to tell me a story like this, I'm going to have to work it into something. So,
Material. Okay.
yes.
So, Miss Jessica, I know you love films. So, if your novel will have a film adaptation, what would be your mandatories for it to be translated into a
Ooh.
film?
Um,
Is that too hard?
hmm. Well, it would be fun to have a film version, but I guess if um I've I've um I've watched a lot of film adaptations, and I know that adaptations really work if they are unfaithful. so um if someone were to adapt my novel for the screen, he or she doesn't have to be super faithful to the text, but as long as the spirit of it is the same, as in, the spirit of nerdiness, the spirit of adventure, the spirit of feeling like you don't belong, as long as they have that there, you can change the little details.
That's cool because sometimes other writers are very
No, because you have to recognize that books and movies are two entirely different
different for
art forms, and was this uh, what works on the printed page may not necessarily work on the big screen. An example would be the Lord of the Rings trilogy, as in, if it were super faithful to Tolkien's books, we would have long stretches of strange characters singing to each other, which doesn't always work on the big screen, diba? If you want
that's
something
true.
epic.
That's true. Okay, so and lastly, the fully book signature question. Do you judge a book by its cover?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes the book cover is so fascinating that I have to get it. That's why, I have all of Chris Ware's books, and I haven't even read all of them, but they look so distinct and unique. So it's a Chris Ware doorstop. I haven't even read the previous doorstop, but I have to bring it home. And then there are designers like Chip Kid, whose work is so distinct that sometimes you just want to look at it. And so yeah, sometimes I do judge a book by its cover.
And that's it. And sorry, I forgot to mention this, but I really love the cover of your book.
So,
Thank you. It's the first
pretty.
book design by my friend Bianca, Bianca Ortigas. She works in an art gallery and she makes tote bags with cats. And so I thought, if you can make these cool tote bags, you can make um, my book cover. And yeah, that was my requirement. It has to have a cat on the cover.
It's
Because my
so
previous book also has a cat on the cover. So.
yes, and your previous book also has a very good cover. The pink one, right? The
Yes, so as long as there are cats, and so because the book design has had such a good reception, Bianca and I are now planning tote bags
wow,
because books come with tote bags, so
that's
you'll need a
cute.
tote bag so you can carry your book, your notebooks, etc., etc. So yeah, we're making tote bags.
Yay. Okay, so thank you, Miss Jessica. Do you have
Thanks, Carla.
do you have a message for everyone who joined us today?
Well, don't worry. Someday we will all go out again and we will go to bookstores and we will do live book talks. But for now, the important thing is to stay safe, stay well, be paranoid about your health, but also, stay cheerful because, this will pass.
Thank you for that.
And read a lot of books while you're at home.
Yes. Thank you for that
Yes.
reminder, Miss Jessica. And thank you again so
Yes.
much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Um,
Yes.
and to everyone who joined us today, thank you very much. And I really hope you get to meet Guada soon. So get your own copies of The Age of Umbridge at Fully Book branches. And exclusive only for today, you can get it at our online store, www.fullybookedonline.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes.
Keep on reading and add this to your to be read list. Thank you.